So how is Bedrock broken? I mean, just place a few pistons, cast a magic spell, and ta-da, you have your freshly breaked Bedrock block. But like, how does that happen? So most Bedrock breaking setups have pistons somewhere in them. So if we take a piston and rip off its head, it'll give some interesting properties. And if we take that and face it into a block and unpower it, it will replace the block with a moving piston and retract, leaving air where the block once was. This can be any block, including spawners, bedrock, command blocks, and even other headless pistons. So how do we get a headless piston? Well, you need to rip its head off violently in an explosion right when it's just starting to extend, leaving a headless piston. But we have a problem. This requires the space in front of the piston to be free. If we can't use headless pistons, what else can we use? Well, in most modern piston-based bedrock breaking setups, we use block updates. Basically, these setups use the fact that block updates, or updates in general, aren't tied to the block that they're referencing. Instead, they are tied to the coordinates of the block. So basically, we can create a block update for retracting a piston in the exact same game tick as we change the direction of the piston to be pointing into some bedrock to retract and destroy it. In theory, this should be pretty easy, but we cannot move extended or moving pistons, and 2, this all has to happen in the exact same game tick. Luckily, if you remembered from earlier, headless pistons can destroy the block in front of them, and headless sticky pistons also have a property that I didn't tell you about. They can finish the motion of moving blocks in front of them. This makes headless pistons the best job for This makes headless pistons the best tool for the job and creating some tasty, delicious broken bedrock. So let's put this all together into one magnificent bedrock breaking device. So this is going to be the setup I'll be using to explain bedrock breaking. We have a butted piston above the bedrock with the headless piston pointing into it. Above we have a piston with some slime or honey connected to a downwards facing piston. And then finally we have another headless piston on the side here to accelerate the motion of the moving block above the bedrock. You may also notice that this part has been set back. This is because when we power the piston that moves downward facing piston above the bedrock, it won't be able to extend because it can't move the extended piston. This is why we will move the piston into place with another and power afterwards. So let's go through the steps to breaking that bedrock. 1. Update the headless sticky piston. This will destroy the head of the butted piston and destroy the rest of the piston, but not before the butted piston creates a block update to retract. 2. Connect the piston and slime to the rest of the setup. This will cause the other piston to realize it's being powered and activate as well, moving the downwards facing piston into position. 3. Activate the headless sticky piston and accelerate the motion of the downwards facing piston, which will separate it from the slime blocks above the bedrock in place to receive our block update from before. So in essence, we're creating a block event for retraction on the spot above the bedrock, then moving a downwards facing piston in the way to take that block update in block event and retract into the bedrock. After all this, for some reason, the downwards facing piston still has enough information to remember which direction the butted piston is facing and faces in that direction for some obscure reason. Okay, this is cool and all, but you'll likely never use this setup. Instead, you'll likely use a manual bedrock breaking setup. You have to place the piston yourself. Those work in a similar manner to the previous setup. The TNT fronts to the piston, destroys the lever and the block in front of it. This causes the piston to become butted and schedule a block event for retraction. Later in the same tick, the TNT destroys the piston, the player places the downwards facing piston, and the piston will then retract and destroy the bedrock. Well, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn more, check the description for more info. DesktopFolder has some amazing videos about bedrock breaking, so check them out when you have time, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it isn't as real with errors as the previous one. See you next time.